Hi everyone, this is Nilesh here. Hey Ven, how are you?
Hey, how are you? How are you?
I am doing great. I'm doing well. I think we are just going to wait on Jason is going to join us. So we're going to wait on him a little bit, but yeah, we can get started. So hi everyone, I see Joe. Hey, hi Joe. How are you? Hi Pamela. Then we have Aditya. We have Guillermo. Hola, Guillermo. How are you? uh, and then we have Sam. So okay, excellent. So we've got a few people in. So today we are talking about one of the most exciting topics, which is the overall state of the LTDs. So I mean, I'm sure when you're familiar with what's going on a little bit in the community and anger are surrounding some of the deals which were founders changing the current plans which were initially sold, moving away from the product, and doing something else, and then changing the limits, closing down entirely, and even stall development and whatnot. Right, so it's a sorry state of affairs, to say the least, and that's not how you run a business. I mean, these are applications which are unreliable. You cannot run a business on that. And if you are, then there should be certain clauses on how can we improve this overall scenario, or can we just like, oh, tough luck and move on to the next one, and the same thing happens again. So that's what we're talking about. The goal is to get ideas and work as a community, as a team, to make
Yeah,
sure
that's a great
what can
idea.
be done about it. Right? What do you think?
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. I think we don't have the answers, but I think we've got some pretty smart minds in here, and I think that if we kind of like talk about it with you guys, we can come up with some approaches to talk to these people in the first instance, but also keep them accountable, and maybe long term come up with a better solution than merely people buying a lifetime deal license that we've seen doesn't have a lot of stock if the founder either sells it or they go out of business or they decide that it's not profitable anymore. And so they just want to merely change the name and create another brand. I mean, if you let's take Botstar as an example. I heard that their reasoning was that they're creating this new chat bot, this website chat bot. It's like, well, you already had a website chat bot. It was called Botstar. It just so happened that it also did messenger chat bots, right? To me, I think it's a bit of a farce. And what it tells me is that they've just mismanaged the money that they were given, and they haven't got MRR. And yeah, I'll talk to this a little bit because I was in that community for a bit. I did a ton of chatbot development on their platform. I have to say, in some ways, it was very slick and it had a lot of promise. But the one thing I noticed really early on was their unwillingness to personally engage with their community. So they had this poor girl who was representing their product, and she would then convey the ideas to the founders, and the founders would think about it and go, yeah, 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 we'll get back to that later, and then a year later nothing had happened. I completely abandoned the project, so I realized early on, well, if this is how they're going to work, then it's never going to work. So I ended up jumping over to Sulfur Bots, which has now become Chat Race after being sued by many chat. But if you guys are looking for an awesome chatbot, Chat Race is phenomenally good. Anyway, that's my first little diatribe on it. What do you think, Neilish?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yes. So like, so here is the challenge, right? I mean, of course, one of the things is there are developers. There is immense amount of talent everywhere in the world, right? And there are developers who have these brilliant ideas. They come up with like let's take a for example Appsumo, right? How
Mm-hmm.
difficult is it for Appsumo to execute an agreement and with a company based in probably like Vietnam? Maybe on paper, yes, I think Botstar is based in Singapore. Maybe companies in US, they would have a better option to have certain deal terms and things of that nature. and they could implement it, right? But if it's the company, it's a foreign entity, how difficult would that be to even execute that? The next part of the whole problem is if you have Appsumo, for example, in case of Botstar, right? You have, like, I think the campaign was incredibly successful. They raised almost like $550,000, and don't quote me on these numbers, but these are some of the numbers on their blogs which I've seen and which were shared. So they
Mhm.
raised about, overall Appsumo raised about $550,000. I think Botstar got about close to 170K, which was about 30%, right?
Yeah.
So Botstar got the money, they spent it probably, right? And people are saying, like the founder bought a new house and posted some pictures, and sure, like whatever it would that be, like we don't
Bought a
know,
new
right?
house. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
you get
mean,
a house
whatever
that
the
thinks
case
it's
would
less than a
be,
million.
right? Like we're not gonna go get into the personal things, and that's, although it's okay, I mean, that's none of our business what he does. I mean, because we don't have control over that money which he did receive. And then, hey, Ruhani, how are you? Hi, Annalisa. Hey, Guillermo. Arthit, how are you? And we have quite a few folks joining today. That's great. Um, so, guys, okay, so here is my concern. So, okay, well, the developer got 170K, right? So, Appsumo, like, say, I think 550 minus, like, let's say 170, what, 380. So Appsumo is left with 380K. Now, Appsumo has a budget too. They're spending money on marketing, resources. Appsumo is a US based company. So I'm not sure what their profit percentage is. But let's say even if they bank 50% of that money, like that's like what, 190K, right? They spend the 50% as an overhead, right? Who's losing? So if Botstar refunds have to be processed, Appsumo is going to, let's say, lose at least that 170K which they paid to the developer, as well as another 190K which they probably already spent on this overhead, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm just on a more conservative type of estimate. Probably Appsumo spent more. I don't know, but if anytime there is a refund, right, Appsumo is losing money. So what's in their interest? To bring Botstar back, to sell more plans, and keep them going as long as they can, right? That's one thing. Okay, and
Hold on.
yeah,
Did they come back a second time? They did,
I
didn't
think
they?
they did come back second time. I think they were already on JV Zoo before, I think, and then they came back on Appsumo, and then they came back again. So
Again.
I'm not sure if they're going to come back again with a new product, and if that was the strategy, but it's a bad one, right? But again, the problem is a lot of people are not part of these communities. Majority of the Appsumo users are outside. They're never part of this community, and they just buy, right? The, so I don't know. I mean, Appsumo has a massive user base. Like they have over 1 million users. Only like our community is the biggest, and it's like 12K. So yeah.
I don't know if that's true though. Like when they say a million users, I doubt that. And here's why. I mean, like every founder that, not every founder, but we know that there's a certain group of founders that will go on there and they'll create 20 fake profiles and then they'll put the stuff up in, and then people get burnt. They annoy Appsumo, or they try something shonky, so they'll ditch their old account and they'll buy a new one. So I actually think the real numbers are probably a few 100,000, which is still significant, but it's probably not a million like they say it is. I doubt that.
Possibly. Hey, let me do one thing real quick. I forgot to show all the chats in the window.
But
Hey, so
what what's Botstar doing at the moment? Like I got a note from Appsumo saying that they were looking at it, right? And that's the last I heard from it. They just emailed everybody, I guess, with a blanket statement saying that if you bought. Hey, Jason, again.
hey, hi, Jason.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Excellent. So I'm just going to show all the comments. Pamela is here. Hey, Pamela. Jason. Um, Jason had joined us during the session, but somebody was knocking on his door. So he had to attend to that. And welcome back, Jason.
Thank you very much.
So Joe is, I think, at his mother-in-law. So, hey, Joe. I asked Joe if he wanted to join. Aditya is here. And that's Guillermo. Hey, Guillermo. Hola. Sam is here. I showed all the comments earlier. Maybe, yes. So Kazim is here. Hey, Kazim. And then we have Zaftai here. Hey, Zaf, how are you? I was chatting to Zaf the other day as well. So Jay Brown, hey, good topic selected for today's video, guys. Thank you, Jay. We have Arthit. Hi, Arthit. Then we have the best days of LTDs have gone now. Many money grabbers. Guillermo, that's in a way it's right. Unfortunately, yeah, to a certain it's to a larger extent for sure. You just have to be a little bit more careful. I wish Appsumo did a little bit more due diligence for sure, because they've got such a loyal customer base. But we'll find out how they approach it. Right? That's Annalisa. Hi, Annalisa. Ruhani. Hey, Ruhani. Ruhani is here. Ruhani, if you would like to join, let us know. Good morning. Then we have Joran Liang. Hi, Joran. How are you?
Are we live on YouTube at the moment?
We are. We are.
Hi, this is a shout out to Henry. Hi, Henry. Hello today.
Yeah, yes. 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 Good morning to all. Annalisa, good morning.
Flame will go in again.
Hey, Jason. Zav is saying hi to you. Ruhani is saying hi to you, Jason. At his mother-in-law. No further explanation needed. Okay. Alberto is here. Hey, Alberto. Okay. So we are at the end of the comments. All right. So we can get back to thank you all for joining. It's an important topic. We're going to record the session. We've done some work. We'll share some things in the community as well. But really, this session is to discuss and get your thoughts around how we can address this as a community. How should we support founders better? How do we identify the right founders who are going to stick to the plan and deliver, and all our investment is protected in a way, right? I mean, it's like, okay, $50 for tier one, but if you look at a higher tiers, it's like $400, $500, $600 now. If I'm spending $500 on 10 LTDs, that can add up, right? So, and if it's 50,000 people or 100,000 people spending that kind of money, that can quickly add up too. So, how do we address this? What can be done? So, Jason, you just join. What do you think? What are you seeing, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
By the way, do you have the brew?
The two cases that I think I'm on water. I've been filming videos all day, and my throat is very dry, so I'm on water.
Hey, is there a lag with Jason?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay.
The more of us that's on, the longer the delay gets. I figured when it's just you and me, it's like a second or two. But when you get the third and the fourth person on, it jumps to 5 seconds or so. At the moment, it seems to be okay. Maybe it's only a couple of seconds.
Okay. All right. Okay, Jason. Yes, go ahead, please. Yes.
No problem. So this is really my first experience of the this happening. So the two that are being spoken about in the last 48 hours. It's new to me. So I've not got either of them. I'm not involved in it. So I'm watching from afar. and it sounds interesting that there may be two different scenarios. One is a change of product, and the other one just seems to be radio silence and no response. So I think the change of product is really interesting, and that's I think probably going to be more more of a discussion, I would imagine, whereas the other one seems quite straightforward, whether they've run out of money or whether they've run out of interest or whatever it might be. Um, I'm really interested in, and to look in what everyone's going to be talking about in the chat there as well, how they feel about it. It's going to be really interesting. But the guy that's posting his pictures of his new house, that's just complete trouble.
Yes, 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 and that's the BotStar CEO. That's the BotStar founder.
Oh my god! Oh my god! What an idiot! What an idiot!
So I mean that thing is gone. A lot of, like, there was some bad news on, I think, Optimacy side in our community. People were complaining, and I know when you spent some significant amount of money on Optimacy, like $1,000 probably, because we did see the potential at the time. I spent some money on Optimacy, and I'm not sure, Jason, you're involved in Optimacy either, which is smart, by the way. Not so smart of us, but there we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's like a trend, right? It happens every few days. There's something going to happen next week, and the week after, and the week after, and there is enough evidence that the current state is not working. The current state is not working. And also, I'm afraid to say this, but here is the reality, right? A lot of SaaS startups fail, regardless, even if they are on Appsumo or not, they are going to fail at some stage, right? With Appsumo, when they had like one or two deals at a time, it was a different story. Now it's all marketplace. So with marketplace, there is a flood of deals out there, right? The chances of some of these campaigns failing are quite high because because of the poor vetting of the quality, maybe demand supply. I mean, to a fierce competition. There are so many different factors, right? So, like, overall, it's like, okay, with Appsumo right now, the thing is like, okay, there are a few deals, and every time there is a deal which fails, Appsumo is losing money.
Mhm.
So their goal is, okay, well, you want to bring the deal back in again. You want to do another LTD. You want to fund them again. So keep them going and keep them going till they can, right? And then at some stage, it is still going to fail, right? And that's the worst part, because you're trying to get something going and waste everybody's time. Like, so BotStar is a perfect example, right? Like, it's been around for like what? How many years now? 2 years. I think the first time the LTD came in, right? So I mean, you start working on it. Some things work, some don't work. There is stalled development. There's a tremendous waste of time, and you're hoping that things might get done in future. In future, nothing gets done, and here we are today, right? So today's thing is like, what do we do? Can it be improved? And what can we do about it?
Well, I have some thoughts, and the
Yes.
first one is around it's preemptive, right? So one thing that we have to do as a community is that we have to assess the trustworthiness of the founders. Have they done any shonky business in the past? That's always a good signal that they're going to do the same in the future. At least in my experience, I've seen that people who tend to do shonky things in the past tend to do things in the future. What do they like to deal with on their customer support? Are their development team listening to timely feedback. And I understand that they can't deliver everything at light speed. There's that, and there's also, and you've heard me say this before, that the stack or the technology stack, and the team and the capability of your team and the experience that you've built up before, these are all huge factors, because it determines how quickly that you can iterate your application, because no application, no tool is perfect. And one thing that really smart founders do, and here we go, Ash Maria drop again. One thing that good founders do is that they thoroughly investigate the pain points of their customers, thoroughly investigate where their customers are struggling, and removing those blockages for them. Because a customer, uh, in scaling lean speak, what we call that is jobs to be done. So instead of thinking about an avatar, like the typical marketing thing is, you have this avatar, she's 33, she's a mom, she's got 2 young kids, she works as a pharmacist. So you build up this avatar. That's a typical way of marketing. But the scaling lean way of marketing is saying, we have these people and they have the struggle in their lives, and there's something that happens that triggers a cascading set of decisions in their life that get them going looking for a product like yours. And they're trying to get a job done, right? So you can think of people when they're using an application, when they're using your service, and this is for us too, right? So regardless of whether you're a founder or whether you're a provider of services or whether you work for someone else, you're trying to get a bunch of jobs done in your day. And good founders, they really zone in on what that job to be done is, and they really remove every obstacle possible to help you to get that job done. One of the things that I've seen with really smart founders is they're extremely good at listening to the problems that their audience are having. Like, they'll have conversations, they'll jump on with every new customer that comes through the door. And I know that's not realistic for some of you, but as I always hold up the example of LeadsHook, Nick Thakariel, he, even to this day, he got several thousand customers in there and they're not going anywhere. But he talks with every single one that comes through the door for 20 minutes. Why? Because he wants to find out what their problems are, how, what their pain points are. He wants to understand what they're hoping to get out of the tool. He's hoping to, help them get some quick wins with the tool from the get-go. And you just don't, that kind of perpetual curiosity about your customers and their problems, you don't really see that today. Like somebody said, there's money grabs, and it's a very shallow, short-sighted view of your business. If you really want your business to, here's a knowledge bomb for you. This one just blows my mind, right?
Yeah.
I want to be a billionaire, right? I want to be a billionaire. It may seem like hype and highfalutin stuff, but here's the thing, and I heard somebody really clever say this. If you want to be a billionaire, do not aim to be a billionaire. Okay? Aim to solve the problems of a lot of people, and if you do that well enough, on the way, secondary effect is you'll probably become a billionaire, right? But if your single goal is to become a billionaire, what you'll do is you'll take shortcuts. You'll do what's called pre-optimization. You'll be creating stupid smart goals. I created a whole productivity course, so I know all about this stuff. A lot of that smart goal stuff is just nonsense, by the way. I'm going to tell you, but the focus has to be around the big picture. In this case, it's not making money, it's not making an amazing app, it's actually helping people to get what they want. And so the smartest developers, the smartest founders are the ones that are really listening to their customers and are trying to figure out how best to serve their needs, regardless of what development platform they're on. But like I say, that also plays into it. I always ask that question. If they're on React and they're using a Node.js stack, I know they're going to, generally speaking, they know what they're doing, and they're going to quickly be able to make a decent web app, and so that, and I'll give you another example. Whenever I hear somebody's built a backend on PHP, I know that they're in for a world of pain, right? Because they're going to have to undevelop all of their legacy code and redevelop that monstrosity again, because PHP, quite frankly, any app that's built on PHP, yes, it's very quick to prototype your tool, but then once you get past that initial MVP, your minimum viable product, trying to get to the next stage, once you're starting to get traction and you're aiming for MRR, That's tough, man. And I've done it. Like I've done it. I've ended up boxing myself into a corner 3 times, and each time spending a shitload of cash and then ending up with an app that is just gets out competed because someone else is moving too quickly. So so I've kind of mentioned a mouthful there, but the key one out of all of those things is looking at the character and capability of the founder and the team. Really, that's it in a nutshell. I don't think we should be very very diligent and very discerning about that. Like we can consider this community as a team. We've got team power here. We can join together, and one of the things I think that we're really good at is calling a spade a spade. If something looks fishy, we call it out. Don't go
Yes.
for this one, guys. There's something really odd about this. Don't do it. Looks great. They offering the world. You can make 1 million landing pages. You can get 1 million hits a month. Oh, yeah, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, it's totally sustainable. And then boom, they just collapse and die. And quite frankly, we probably knew that from the get-go, right? If we were honest with our intuition, the deal was probably too good to be true. Anyway, that's a lot
Yes.
of words.
Yes. Hey, just want to acknowledge some of the new folks who just have joined earlier. Hey, Sajwal, how are you? Alberto is asking any thoughts on SideJet. So, Alberto, I'll come back to that for sure. Sajwal is saying Botstar is big, but it's nothing compared to what PitchGround did. So, 3-year plan as LTD for Zoom. That's correct. We did read about that. I don't buy anything, Sajwal, from PitchGround. I didn't even buy Scale Nut, but I've read about it. That's really horrible. I mean, to do something like that is outright fraudulent. And
So what happened there?
they sold basically a 3-year plan. So PitchGround had an agreement with Zoom for a 3-year plan, but
Zoom.
Zoom, like XR,
Oh, Zoom. Oh,
Xroom,
Zoom.
Xroom, yeah.
Yeah.
And when PitchGround sold it to their customers, they sold it as an LTD, which is like that's a clear cut case of fraud for sure.
Oh, really? They sold it as an LTD, but then
They
they
sold it as an
reneged.
LTD. That's a clear cut case of fraud. No doubts about it.
Jesus.
No doubts about it. I mean, yes, if the PitchGround folks are listening and I'm based in Canada, they can send me a legal notice, whatever, right? I have a company in US as well. I mean, for sure. If this is what happened, what you see on the screen, then that's a clear-cut case of fraud. So for sure. I
Wow.
mean, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's horrible. I mean, Sajwal, are we sure about if this is the fact?
Get that one right.
Yeah. Was that?
You better get that one right before we claim it as a fact.
Yeah. No, I mean, we are asking question. We are on a live stream, and for sure, if that's the case, then it is a fraud. But are we sure about it? We'll have to verify it. But yes, I mean, legally, for sure, if there is anything, we have everything documented in terms of where we are. So
Okay.
it's not an issue.
So we got
Yeah.
Botstar and we got Automizer. So Automizer, Jason, were you saying that You were saying that people were saying that Automizer
Hey,
is just
Danny.
closing down. Is that what you're saying?
I think, yeah, Nilesh and I spoke
Hi,
about it
Austin.
briefly earlier, and they're I think they've just gone quiet. No responses, no updates, no. You're talking about founders that are interactive, and sounds like they've gone the opposite way.
Great.
Oh, Sajal is saying they probably thought their deals won't last more than 3 years to begin with. Says a lot about the company.
Probably.
Yes, that makes sense, Sajal. That's horrible, assumption that you bring a deal so poor that you sell it as an LTD, assuming that it is not going to last for more than 3 years. That's a really bad, thing to do for sure. Have a used stack on Automizy, but switched. I have moved away. Austin, good choice. I'm not sure if you're stuck with Automizy, but I mean, we are stuck as well. Like, Win has a used stack. I think he paid somebody $1,000 for it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Win, I was just going to say there, with you mentioned about the founder that was very proactive and listened. One of the things I find interesting, and we know I'm quite new to this, but I've obviously been doing a lot of monitoring around the online course space, and I think a few things have come out in recent weeks on Appsumo that are online courses. And it's just interesting to see the founders that come out with the features that turn people away. And it's like they don't listen to the audience. It's like they don't listen, they don't read the comments of other similar products. So when you talk about that founder you mentioned that listens and reviews and engages with the potential customers, I think that's incredible because I think there was an online course one that came on AppSumo this week. And you look at the limits, and then you go back to like times of Guru Khan and Spay and all the questions that are asked in AppSumo there. It's almost like they've not even looked at it because they're coming out with all the features that people get annoyed about. And I don't know if that's a clever ploy or what they're doing, but it surprises me. So, yeah, I echo that one about the founders listening.
Yeah, it's a known thing, right? It's a confirmation bias. So you go into development. I know this because I've done this. I've made the dumbest mistakes. I'll put my hand up and tell you that. So you go in with an assumption about what the problem is and what the solution should be. You just get this brainwave idea, and oh my God, start jumping up down. I'm going to be a millionaire. Let's do it. So you go and scrape some money together, get a developer, and away you go. And then you get this product, and you wonder why people don't really love it. You know, I mean, I've had some knockout products. Don't get me wrong, but predominantly not. And that comes down to, it's something I've only learned. This is why I keep on recommending scaling lean, because it was an epiphany for me about learning about, you put the problem first. The problem is the number one thing that you should fall in love with as a founder, not your product. Your product is a secondary, like a conveyor, or it's like a vehicle for putting that customer in the car and bringing them over to your side of the bridge where they're going to get the problem solved. But the actual product itself is not that important. It's the customer and their experience and about what value you're bringing, and it's relative to the problem that you're solving for them. And I put it down to a lack of awareness and a lack of observation on the founder's part. Like, they've made some assumptions about what this tool should be, and it's really pertinent that we're covering this, because if they get this one part right, what does it mean? It means that they're going to get MRR. Why? Because people are going to fall in love with their product. They're going to recommend it to their friends who are also like them, because we all know people like us, right? We're all have an affinity for other people that are just like us. And you tell people about good experiences that you've had, and also I think, forget the stat, if you've had a negative experience, like it's extremely destructive to a business. And so these businesses, they've sold on a lifetime deal. They've done a poor job of listening to their customers and understanding what those problems are that they're facing. And as a result, those customers are getting annoyed. They're not getting the value out of the tool that they bought. They just don't use it. And then those founders wonder why that they're struggling to get traction on their amazing tool that they thought that everyone was going to love. That's really the size of it.
So, one of the things is, like, I was comparing, and I have like a whole framework which I created. I have a post in the community around that, right? So one of the things what we want to do when is part of this whole thing is to have a backer club, to have a genuine way for the community to vote on certain parameters and see if it makes sense as a community to buy into a deal or not. Whereas, of course, in terms of agreements and things of that nature, if we can get to the founders to sign something, go on record, I mean, such things will help, right? Like, so one of the things I was looking at is like, okay, are companies which have had a campaign, even a mediocre campaign, right? As long as they're able to raise money, right? Their companies are successful. Like, they like look at Outplay HQ, or there are other companies out there. I mean, if you look at our Helpwise, and I mean, Helpwise, of course, they had a whole MRR behind their sister product, and that company is doing really well. But I was like, Restream, or I mean, yes. So like, what do VCs look for in a company, right? Are they getting it right? I mean, of course, there is a lot of failure rate amongst VCs too. So there is an overall failure rate in the startup world is quite astoundingly high, because of a
Yeah.
lot of fierce competition, right? And there are so many overlapping products in a category. If you look at the G2 grade, if you look at Captura, I mean, there are so many different things. There is like, it's a crowded market out there, right? Every category you take, email outreach, boom, it's like it will be like in the leaders quadrant, like there will be like 25 companies out there, right? So a newcomer coming in, I mean, so what do VCs look for, right? So VCs look for like that CEO experience, like, what's the team experience, right?
Yeah.
Like team quality, right? Like, how's their branding, and what are some of the regional, like, what are they considering, right? Like, what are they trying to address? Like, number of customers, users, like, I mean, like, if you look at red herring, like, which is like, so these are the kind of things they look for in when they're looking at companies who are going to be like awarded, have any like level of speciality, any IP, things of that nature, right? I mean, do we look for those things? I mean, yes, we are asking for a lot of things here, but we don't look for those things. We'll look at few things, quick review, and but to look into those things, we need to have a team. And if we can get to do like a community review, we have a template, we look at those parameters, right? And see if they match, right? And then come to a collective conclusion and get people to vote on certain things that, hey, yes. And then you can say, okay, well, out of 100 people, 10 people are buying it, 90 people are going to skip it. Maybe that's not a good product I want to invest into, because uh,
You
these,
know,
I mean,
taking
I'm
that
just
approach,
thinking of ways, right? Like, what we can do. In the meantime, I mean, before we go through a legal option and have a backers club and see, where founders can give us perks, come on record, and do certain things. Sure, that's going to happen. But what are the other things in the meantime we can do? Like, and why is this happening in the first place as well? Like, is it happening because founders are getting less money out of their campaign? Is it happening because their campaigns are getting underfunded in the first place and they're not getting that runway? I mean, these are the things which you need to think about.
So going back to, sorry, Jason, you should have a chat in a second, but going back to scaling lean, and I think this is the lens that we should be looking for. And you kind of you kind of said it, you implied it, which is that we should be looking at these as if we were investors. If we were going to invest our money, how would you look at it? Like you said, you look at the founders. But there's a couple of different frameworks I use for looking at things. The first one is the scaling lean method, which says, in a nutshell, there's one metric. We've talked about metrics in past podcasts, but there's one metric that you can look at that can accurately predict a startup's success, and that traction metric is traction. It's traction, right? So what's a traction? What's a traction metric?
Yeah.
So people talk about traction, and we always think that when people talk about traction, we think it means money, how much money they're making. No, traction is the metric that you use when you don't have money, right? So if you don't have an income, if you don't have MRR, what one metric can predict whether or not that business is going to succeed or not, right? if that startup is missing a traction metric, I'm telling you, it's almost guaranteed it's going to fail, right? So anyway, so let's talk about what a traction metric is, because I think this is one thing besides the founder and you know the background of the founder and whether or not they've got a good team and whether or not they're built on a decent technology stack. Those are kind of like that's like the entry. Like you got to have that in place, otherwise you're going to suck anyway. But by the time they go on Appsumo, they shouldn't be brand new. It shouldn't be like in what is it, alpha? It shouldn't be in alpha with no customers. It should have a customer base, right? And it should have traction. So what is traction, right? So let's take the example of Facebook. Before Facebook made any money, they were making zero money, and they had a first round seed funding of I think it was $11 million, and they got an initial valuation. I think it was from Microsoft. Anyway, I'm making this up at this point, but it was, I think their first seed round funding was $1 million. It was based on $111 million valuation. And they figured out it was an engagement. They used an engagement metric, basically how many times people logged in, how long they were logged in for, and that was over a monthly basis. I think it's MAPU, what they call it now, right? And they said, okay, well, if we're looking at analog businesses like ours, they found Friendster and MySpace. They said, okay, well, this is how much they're making in terms of MAPU. This is how much revenue they're making. And then this is the valuation that they're getting. I think it was like 18 times MAPU or whatever it was, on annualized. That's how they got the valuation. Simple as that. And so if we can't look at a business, one of the things that we should maybe look at, especially when we welcome people on our podcast here, maybe one thing that we look at is saying, hey, what's your traction metric? Not your income, not your revenue, not your MRR.
Yes.
What is your traction metric that predicts your future sustainability and growth? What is that? If you don't have it, sorry, we don't talk to you.
Yes.
Right?
And on top of that, we should also ask them that, hey, when is your campaign ending? What's your plan for 30, 60, 90 days? What's your plan for MRR? Go share it in the community, right? How do you actually plan to do that, right? What does your marketing look like, right?
Yeah.
Bring your team, right? I mean, if you have like 3 people, bring them onto the live stream, and we want to make sure that we feel comfortable with them that, okay, these are the guys who are going to do it, and I feel confident that they can do it. Now, it's very hard to understand somebody in an hour, but, we will probably give them a little bit more time of the day and make sure that everybody feels confident, and without which I am not sure what else yes, we can get them to sign agreements, we can do, but if the conviction is not there within that team itself to drive MRR, no matter, because it's very, very fierce competition. There are companies which raise millions of dollars and they're failing, right? So when you're raising like $200,000, I'm surprised Boston has been around for
the money's nothing,
right? That's nothing. $200,000. Like they did, it was 170. Yes, luckily they're in Vietnam, so probably it lasted them a little longer. But the reality is, that's not even one person's salary in the Silicon Valley. Like the rent in, like, if you go to San Francisco, is like $5,000-$6,000 a month. Yeah, minimum. Like you're gonna live in a really like a shared room kind of thing. Yeah.
What do you think, Jason? Me and Neelish have said a lot. What do you think?
I couldn't write your knowledge bombs down quick enough, Win. So you need to slow down a bit so I can get them all scribbled down.
Cheers, thank you.
I think the traction metric is really interesting. I've got a book on traction I've not read yet, so that's why I kept looking over my shoulder. Maybe that comes forward in my queue of books to read. I think what Nilesh said was really interesting about how we potentially, when these founders come on and you and Nilesh will speak to them, maybe that for it to be less about what their passion is, but now to really come on them to what happens in 12 months time. You come out of the LTD period, how does this change to that monthly reoccurring revenue, and really
Yeah.
dig on those questions. The thing I think is really interesting is, and you guys will know better than me because I've only been around this for a year, is I'm seeing an evolution of our community, our team, as you called it, Win. I'm
Yes.
seeing an evolution of how much we want to know, where we go to find out, the questions
Yeah.
we're asking. I think there's almost an organic kind of movement towards, because, and I think you said it at the beginning, it seems to be now that the $49 tier one is nothing. So everyone's looking at the $400. So people have got to put more money out. And I think that's starting to make people ask more questions and dig deeper and being passionate. And what I liked about what you said earlier, Win, about that founder that listens to customers, takes 20 minutes every time. I think being active in a Facebook community, their own Facebook page, their company page, whatever it is, I don't think that's enough anymore. um, Promoting your own updates is one thing, but that's not listening to the customers. That's not trying to understand what the pain points are. So I think it's really interesting, and I agree. I think naturally, and you look at, and I love the people that are involved in this group and the ones that always come in and comment and and you can see how intelligent they are with the comments,
Yes.
how much scrutiny they're putting on these processes now, and so I agree with you, and I think this team, this community, this group is really powerful, and I think any
This.
fair play to any founder that comes on and takes the questions and can answer them appropriately.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, we like, so we got to share some of the things. I mean, we also talked about, like, building a predictor, almost like, where you can have a failure rate. What are the chances of the company actually failing, right?
Imagine somebody voting on that. Like these founders are seeing these little scorecards going up as the, I don't
Yeah.
know, 11 or 12,000 people in our group are going, no, these guys are losers. Like that, like they get a -6 on that one and a +3 on that.
But we talked about, like, measuring that metrics and predicting, right? I mean, we talked about the concept of open startups, right? Like, it's almost come to a stage where the founders need to be more open, and just like, hey, if you're not able to generate like MRR, right? I mean, come on, like, talk to the community, just be open about it. Don't wait for 8 months down the line where you have to say, oh, I'm sorry guys, I cannot do it anymore. And like, okay, well, maybe the community can do something about it, right? Like, maybe they can write a good review, maybe they can write post something on YouTube, how good I mean, the product has to be good. I'm not saying just write fake review for the sake, but if the product is good, right? I mean, everything is there. But if you're failing in your, like, I mean, there's so many good people out here. I mean, Alston is doing reviews, and Rouhani is doing reviews, and when you do reviews, Jason, I want to see your reviews more. And Joe is doing reviews, and I mean, there's so much talent. And Jorge is doing reviews. Have you seen his videos? Like, they're out of
Oh,
this
they're
world.
excellent.
Like, I mean, SaaS
They're
Master,
excellent.
like,
Really good.
outstanding. So,
Hmm.
I mean, there's so much talent out there. Use it, right? But the reality is, like, we need to collectively also decide that, what are we going to do? Is everybody feeling safe? I mean, there's no point in discussing, because, like, here's another thing, right? Appsumo is not really, you cannot leave things up to Appsumo anymore. Like, they have like over 1,000 products, or maybe 1,800 products, which are just like, wow, right? I mean,
Oh, what
yeah,
do we know about Appsumo? Number one, that Noah Kagan is not the most trustworthy person on the planet. I know he's likable. I know he worked for Facebook, but other than that, I've heard of various shonky dealings that he's had over the years. He's had different teams that have come and gone. They've, like we know that they're barely profitable at times. So, and we know that they will allow products onto their platform that aren't necessarily that great because they represent a profit-making opportunity. So that's the beginning
He's
point.
likable. I like Noah. I mean, I'm
I,
just
I, I'm
very
just
honest.
out of all of the platforms, they're the best one. Don't get me
Yes,
wrong.
yes.
But I mean, let's be honest. That's the beginning point. Let's be 100% certain that that's the foundation that we're building upon, which is shaky in the first place, right?
Yes.
And so that
But here is what
there
we
are
thought
some great
about.
deals that come through, and some that aren't. And sometimes, like in the case of that Pixel Me,
Yes.
they didn't support that. They said, "Oh, you can upgrade to Jot URL now." It's like, well, fuck you, you just, like you guys sold that. You guys are responsible, and they've done that a few times. So sometimes they will come to the party, but sometimes they won't, and it's that's the nature of it. And they're actually not making a lot of money. Yes, they're the leader. Yes, they've got over 1 million users theoretically, but how sustainable is Appsumo? I mean, let's talk about that.
We talked about this thing, and here is the thing. Here is my biggest worry, right? Like when there is a campaign which is funded, right? So think about it from a Kickstarter perspective, right? Like Kickstarter, what is the percentage of the campaign they keep? They keep like 20%, I believe, and 80% of that money goes to the founders. Appsumo is keeping 80% of the money, and 20%
Was it
is now going.
70%?
No,
70%,
they
right?
increased it to
Wait,
80% now. They increased it to
really?
80%. 20%
Yeah.
of the money is going to the founders, right? So 20% of the money when a campaign is funded, is that enough for the founder to sustain? I think no. I think not, right? But the reality is 20% of that money is gone like right away. Okay. So are we setting some of these companies for failure in the first place with just 20% of the money and very less runway, right? For them to take off. Is that the case? That's something which you need to think about, right? The second piece is okay, 80% of that money, AppSumo is keeping it. Why? Because they're getting an incredibly good deal. They have a huge audience. They are the market leaders, and every founder wants to launch with them because they also have really, really good success stories. So there are multi-billion-dollar companies which have launched on AppSumo and have become very successful. Now,
Right.
the question remains:
I
were they
see.
successful because of AppSumo, or AppSumo looks good because of such companies coming on AppSumo? Right? That's
Right.
a separate
Right.
question we need to answer. But
Right.
and we will pivot into that a little bit later. But is it like okay? So you have campaign A, campaign B, campaign C. So campaign A becomes successful, campaign B becomes unsuccessful, right? Then campaign C becomes unsuccessful. Then campaign D becomes so. Let's say campaign B and C are unsuccessful campaigns. Appsumo has already lost money, right? Because they spend money on salaries. They spend. I don't know what are the safeguards they have, right, to recover that money. You can't really take employee salary back, right? So
No.
is that a sustainable model? So when you lose money on campaign B and C, you borrow money from campaign D and A and refund it either to the customers. So you're already making a loss, right? You're borrowing money from somebody else to pay somebody else. Okay. Now,
Mm.
what does that look like, right? That looks like an unintended Ponzi kind of thing, right? Because that's how, like, you borrow somebody else and then pay some other investor. You borrow somebody else and pay. I'm not saying we are there yet, but will we be there is the question you have to ask, because think about it, right? At this rate, some of the deals which we have bought in the last year are going to probably fail in the next year. And if there should be already like telltale signs of those. If our community goes and investigates into some of those deals, they are going to fail. Now, AppSumo is going to have to refund that money, So Appsumo is also left with like, hard choices, right? I mean, of course, that's not their intention to cheat, because I honestly think they're trying to be honest. They're refunding money. They out of all the platforms, Appsumo is still the best. You have
Sure.
like
I agree with
bad
that.
choices and worse choices, right? Like, so
Yeah.
Appsumo is actually really good
The best one.
in that
Yeah.
sense, right? So
Yeah.
now Appsumo, that's why Appsumo, like, okay, do we lose money on something like Botstar or Swipe Bucket, or can we bring them back or run another campaign and help them survive and get them to survive long enough to say that, okay, you know what, that product served you for 3 years, we cannot do anything anymore, and you lose your money, right? Instead of them going into a life. So that's with the products which are failing, right? There is also a problem with products which are incredibly successful and get acquired. Phone Wagon, for example, right? Phone Wagon, maybe their campaign got funded really well. They also changed the campaign on the first day from international to US and North America. CallRail acquired them, right? And Appsumo is refunding that money. Sure, right? Now, I don't know the full story behind it, but I don't know if Phone Wagon actually decided to give the money back they made. And if they did, Appsumo is very lucky, right? Probably, right? But if not, Phone Wagon made money because of the acquisition. Appsumo did not. Appsumo already still, Phone Wagon might have said, okay, you gave us 30% of our money, right? So here's the 30% back. But Appsumo still spent a significant amount of that 70% in their marketing campaign and their overheads, right? So even though if Phone Wagon was a successful product, right, Appsumo has still lost money, right? And the users have lost access to the product. So it's, even if the product is good, it might not work out well for you. So what I'm getting to at is you have to draft and have safeguards in place, not only when the product fails, but also when the product becomes incredibly successful. Sorry for all the talk, guys. Jason, I need to give you the rest of the time slot and win as well. Yes.
No, you're good. You did say some interesting things in there, though, Nilesh, and I hadn't really thought of this before until you just explained what you did, and we're talking about founders valuing their community, and I think Rahani put some comments in the chat there. It sounds like Appsumo are doing that, because the refunds they're giving when perhaps they're not making money out of it, I think that could be an indication that they value us LTD people. Maybe our addictions is their ability to make money, but we're hardcore. We're like, and again, I'm only a year in, but I'm now looking every day at what new stuff's coming out. So interesting to see that maybe Appsumo are trying to protect their community a little bit. But then I think the challenge with, would they bring back a product that maybe did struggle, and you did use Swipe Bucket as an example, I would suggest there's probably 0.001% trust in Swipe Bucket now, and if they did come back, I would be incredibly amazed if there was any take up on what they did. And I never got it. I had nothing to do with it, so I don't really know if it was any good or what really happened. But just looking at the way the group feels about that one, for an example, if Appsumo or any of the other platforms brought it back as an option, I imagine they'd probably get laughed at a little bit from what's gone on there.
Yeah, but Jason, the problem is, like, what you're seeing in the Facebook community is just like a very small percentage of the people who don't know what is happening out there, right? They might have actually purchased Swipe Bucket. They even might not have noticed what the problem was, right? They might have got some sort of a communication, and maybe that's why they actually are aware of it, right? Or there will always be new users discovering Appsumo, and they won't be aware of communities like us existing, and they will go and purchase it, and then somebody else will, right? So there is always a market. I mean, it's such a big world out there.
Yeah, the new market, yeah.
All right. So, I mean, you can still get away with all the stupidity and still going and raising some money, right? Which is a huge problem.
Yeah.
For sure. And there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, Appsumo is such a massive brand that I mean, they can make or break a campaign for sure, right? So, hey, Sajwal is saying, I just want to cover a few quick comments. Haha, I was in desperate need of chatbot and almost bought full stack Botstar from a reseller only 2 weeks ago. So, Sajwal, if you bought it 2 weeks ago, I think it's ethical for him to refund you the money and you to give him back product. I think when somebody, Matt, had paid you for something, and after a few months, I think the company said that your LTD is no longer good. You refunded him over $1,000, didn't you?
I must have gotten, I forget what I got it from, 14, 15, I don't know. So it was a
$1,800, I think, or
significant,
something. I
1,800
don't know.
bucks. It might have been 1,800. I'm not quite sure what I got it from, but yeah, I started to him, and then it must have been about 4 months later.
Yeah,
Optin Monster said that
Optin
they
Monster. Yes.
were gonna close down that account. I was like, you
Yeah.
freaks.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think it was Matt came back to me, and I just refunded his money. I said, yeah, no, this is not right.
I think that's absolutely fair. So, Sajwal, I think you should go for it. I'm pretty sure the person there shouldn't say, hey, tough luck. He should refund your money to you. So, Alston, one thing we should keep in our mind is when someone says LTD, it does not mean lifetime of ours, but company, which most of the times it can be a couple of years only seeing the current trend. Probably you're right, Alston. Definitely we're not expecting the product to last for our lifetime, but at least you get some use out of it, right? So and that's why I think we in one of our posts we had said, can we do like a limited lifetime? Can we do like a 3 year or 5 year? Can you survive for 5 years and keep, or let us at least use your product for 5 years, and then work out a new agreement or something, right? And that reminds me to talk a little bit about the whole motivation factor for developers in terms of why subscription products are better. But I should keep quiet and let Jason and Win talk here. SaaS owners need to realize LTD market competition is different from regular market competition. Once the LTD is finished, they need to have proper plan for regular market. Otherwise, they're not gonna penetrate the market and can lead to failure or returning as a LTD. Yes, words of wisdom for sure, Alston.
I'll just say a little bit there. So that's a marketing question, and as much as I'm a marketer, I've got a broad base in marketing, and very broad and deep in some areas. Honestly, the answer is not marketing. A lot of this is about product design, and product design comes down to listening to your customers and figuring out what their problems are. So marketing can accelerate the groundwork that's already been done, but if your groundwork is not sound, when you go to accelerate it, you're accelerating this much, and you really want to be accelerating this much. That's my analogy for marketing. Marketing can't fix a badly designed what they call problem solution fit.
Yes. Ruhan is saying, yes, Alston, it is basically until the company decides to sell out or get taken over by similar larger companies. It's happening because of less accountability for sure. Lots of good comments from Alston. The problem is that they can promise anything during LTD period, but when there is no proper accountability after LTD, they might go back on the words. Absolutely. And that's something which we do want to address like right away, as early as within this week or 2 weeks. We want to address that. So we'll come up with some measures and see how we do. So, okay. Ruhan is saying, lately I'm noticing that some founders are coming to Appsumo for hyped up money. They communicate some influencers and hype it up. But 90% of the time, as you guys mentioned, as they do not have MRR user base on their side, alpha products doesn't solve business issues. Like, we are paid alpha users. Yes, we are a little bit of a paid. It's really sad, actually. Some of the products which are being reviewed out there, and we just like, oh my god, like, like those like it's just the reviews are a disaster too, right? So we need to do a better job as a community. I
Can
mean, you
I
need to
can I
need
say
to look
something
at
here?
some of the more detailed reviews, guys. Look at like Alston's reviews. Look at review from Jorge. I mean, Rouhani is a good reviewer. But don't. There are certain reviewers out there that just there for like, you
Hyping
got to be
things up and making
careful.
them.
Yes, you just got to be
Yeah.
careful.
Can I? What was I going to say?
Yes.
I've been in this kind of game, before all of this stuff. When I first got into the marketing game, I learned SEO and Google Maps and Google Ads and Facebook ads, and I was doing arbitrage and all that kind of stuff. And this is back in 2009, 2008. So I've been doing this for a while. In 2010, I got into Warrior Forum, sold my first course on there, made basic applications, sold them on there. And then I went from Warrior Forum in 2010, 2011, 2012, started transitioning to JV Zoo. JV Zoo's kind of taken market share away from Warrior Forum. And then around about 2015, 2014, 2015, Appsumo came on, and they started competing with this same audience. So it's gone from Warrior to JV Zoo to Appsumo. But Appsumo initially didn't target the BizOp, quick money seekers. They targeted really startups. They targeted startups and businesses with marketing tools, right? So it was marketing tools for startups. It seemed more legitimate. But what's happened between then, let's say 2015, 2014 to now, 2011, 2020, it's kind of slid downhill as their market, as their audience has opened up from being, startups and legitimate businesses. Now they're kind of like sucking all of the JB Zoo audience, all of the Warrior Forum audience, all of that audience has become the Appsumo audience. So those other things have gone away, and now that's all kind of transitioned into Appsumo. And really, Appsumo is the new JB Zoo, like somebody already said, and that's an accurate description of what's happened. That's really how the market has evolved and the audience has evolved with Appsumo. And now we're seeing the fruits of that, and now it's all kind of breaking down, and you're seeing a lot of shit that's going through there. And now they've opened up their marketplace. It's just a chaos.
Yes. Absolutely. And, just the quality of the products out there, like the Appsumo of 2017 and 18, it was like, wow, you have to literally wait for a new product to show up. And you would look into Appsumo and it's like, hey, is there anything available? Is there like, like for days, right? There would be nothing. There would be more free products than what you could actually spend on. Really small stacks too. This is not like a 10 stack, a tier 5 kind of world. Like, you'd spend a limited amount of money. And what did that do? Those are some of the more successful companies out there, right? Like, what has happened today is like, okay, you're spending like $500 on an LTD, and the founder is only getting $100. So, like, goes back to the basics, right? I mean, does the founder have enough room to spend on ad budgets? Does he have enough room to pay for his salaries, right? Where is the money going, right? And if where is the money going, and how are you going to survive? Like, so a lot of founders are like, yeah, I'm not here for the money, I'm here for the users. Okay, if you're here for the users and if you get it for a validation, no problem, right? In that case, maybe we need to look at a different approach from that founder and see, well, what does that founder need, right? Are they telling us the truth?
Question, like, okay, so we got Botstar and the ones that are happening right now, Botstar and Automizy. What's our options right now? So with Botstar, they are closing Botstar down, aren't they? And then they're transitioning everybody over to this new tool and giving them lower levels or
Yeah,
lower
yeah.
things?
So what they're saying is we are going to launch new tool, rebranded tool with live chat, and I'm not exactly sure, but of course there could be some additional perks involved. Maybe they're getting some additional funding from startup funding, like government funding, whatever, right? They're rebranding it into a live chat, and they're going to move the
What's the timing on
users.
that?
They're going
Did
to
they give a timeline?
I'm not sure. I think I'm pretty sure it's posted. Everything is posted in the community, all the communication out there. So what they're saying is we'll go and give you like lower limits. So one case, one of the posts which is out there, the guy went and purchased 32 bot star codes. So now
Holy heck.
of course he spent like probably he needed a bot for his customers or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So now his limits are going to be lowered, and he doesn't even want to use it anymore, right? What can he
Right.
do? And only answer he's going to get from Appsumo is going to be a runaround because Bostar is not giving the money back to Appsumo, and even if they do give back their share, Appsumo is still going to lose money on the campaign because they have spent that money, right? It's not like a subscription-based product where hey, you paid me for subscription. You can either use it or don't use it. You already paid me. There is no question of a refund, right? Doesn't happen. When you sell a lifetime deal, there is less money, and also there is a risk of a refund.
Hmm.
Anyway, let me just cover this comment here quickly, and I really need to stop talking. I need to give Jason a chance here. LTDs are an investment. We win in some and lose in others. But like in the 80-20 rule, if with only 20% of the LTDs we make profits, it's okay. At the end, it's a game. The best of all is to learn and create a community around software and business. That's very well. I mean, for sure. Guillermo, I like that comment. Maybe that's the way we should look at it. I mean, I don't know the concrete answer, but that's a good viewpoint for sure. We don't want to be too harsh on the founders. We could listen to Nilesh talk for 24 hours. Oh my god, yeah. You do not want to listen to me to talk 24 hours. I can go on for but let's make some sense as well in between my talks. So that's why we have Jason and Win. So I'm cherry picking reviews. I'm not going to push a review which I already tested, not good, not help the audience. Very important to keep the authenticity of our soul. Soon to be Sumo Zoo. Well, there are some really good products come out in LTD industry where we need to do a lot of research and have luck to pick gems. Also, one advice is to use the LTD you bought ASAP to reduce the risk. At least we can get break even. All right. I think I am at the end of the comment. So let me put it out there, right? Oh, okay. Sav, we'll go to your comment later. Let me put it out there right now. I'm having a feeling that swipe pages in VBOT will go to the direction of selling out as well.
Pretty concerning.
Yeah. Yeah. The sudden influx of LTD launches on Appsumo along with fake reviews makes it hard to know which one is legit. You're absolutely right, Sav. So for
Can we pick
now,
on Ronnie's one?
regardless of how hyped up that LTD is, if I don't have an immediate use case for it, I'm not getting it since there will often be another option for missed deals later. You are on the money, Zaf, for sure. And Ruhani as well. Let me put it out there right now. I'm having a feeling, yeah, could be possible. And with
Why do you
that,
say that, Ronnie? Can you just talk about that a little bit more? I'm willing to learn from this comment. I just want to get your insights. What's driving that? What do you think? What's the evidence for that?
Just while
yeah,
sorry, Nilesh.
yeah, no, you must go. Just go ahead, please.
I was just going to say while Win has asked Rahani to kind of elaborate, I'm just going to give Rahani a shout out. I contacted him a little while ago and asked him a question about something, and he has been beyond helpful with what he's done for me in the last 3 or 4 days. So huge shout out for Rouhani, top guy, top guy.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Rani.
There you go. All right. Okay. That's a shout out for Rouhani. And so you dumped Joe for Rouhani, did you, Jason?
No. Let's get this very clear. Joe is the SEO Yoda. Anything in that world, Joe's the go-to man. My question was about WordPress. So
Okay.
Rouhani had to be the number one destination for that, and he was outstanding in what he did. So always go to the people that are the specialists, and Rouhani is the Yoda of WordPress.
Okay. There we go. Shout out for Jason, Rouhani, Joe. So there we go. All right.
Still love Joe. Still love Joe.
All right. So okay. With that, I think we can. It's all yours, Jason. Do you want to talk about, like, how in the coming days? I think we're going to share some idea boards. We're going to collect a lot of feedback to go ahead and implement something on an immediate basis. We want to take people who are seriously interested. I think now is the time to do like community reviews and not waste too much time on every single deal out there, but to cherry pick some of these deals, look at these 3 deals closely, and decide as a team what we are going to buy. And no FOMO, no regrets, nothing, right? And then we move on. We get the founder. We say, okay, we are a community of 100 people here. We're going to put money into your product, and you're going to be on video and promise us what you can do and what you cannot do. And if you cannot do something, you can let us know right now. That's okay, right? But then we can shape our decision based on that. What do you think, Jason, about that?
I think completely agree, and I think I'm very lucky to have stumbled in this community of people that know what they're doing and know what they're talking about. So when you talk about a tribe going to do what you just said there,
The
if
tribe,
people
I
are
like
putting,
that. Eh? That's us.
absolutely, if Rouhani's going to put out a review on WordPress Hide My Ghost, I trust it, and I know that's not an incentivized review. I know that's a fair review. I know he's coming from a very objective standpoint, and he's going to be limited with his subjective viewpoint. That is nothing but helpful. And if that's the mindset of what we're doing here, to then take it to the founders, and they see that we're not just going to be churning out incentivized reviews, then I think it changes the nature of the relationship in a positive way to how we connect with that founder, that we are trying to invest in the long term of their business to the point of they get the MRR. So I think it's a really good direction to move in.
Yes. So, I mean, over the next week or so, we collect some ideas. We put a structure in place, and we implement it while we go complete all the legalities and stuff like that, right? But at least we have some process to validate and say, you know what, hey, somebody like Vbout, sure, we are a community here. Okay, all these 100 people have signed up here. They're going to sign up for Vbout, but before we buy, we want a commitment from you on such and such things. You're going to answer all the questions. You're going to give the time of the day, 2 hours possibly, every Monday and Friday for the next 3. And we are open to doing more sessions, right? Just to make sure that we understand the deal, the founder answers the question, and collectively we vote and see how many people are actually buying the deal and how many people are actually skipping it based on that, right?
I think the interesting thing with it as well is, because this is the way that things are moving, if there's a founder out there right now that's listening to this, or they'll watch it in the future, if they really want to get ahead of the game for their product, they need to be listening to this. They need to adapt to what we're talking about now. If they're willing to come on a live with you guys and go through their business model, their projection plans, their traction metrics, I'm going to like that. If they just want to come on and tell us how passionate they are about whatever it is their market space is, well, then they're kind of not. They're not going to move forward. They're not going to get the best traction from our group. They're not going to get the buy-in of people that we will buy in if they can, if they do the things that Win mentioned earlier and the things you said there, Nilesh. So I think this is a really good point in time to see how proactive the next group of founders are going to be, because like I said earlier with the online course ones, if they keep churning out the same things that people keep denying and disliking, then the one that comes in and says, I've been listening and watching for the last 18 months on what you, this such valued community, are talking about in whichever area, then that's just going to be like, we're just all going to attract straight to that person because they're the outlier. They're the one that is doing things properly, that are listening, that are engaging, that are trying to adapt to their product to make sure that it's got a long life rather than it's just an LTD life.
Absolutely.
I think this comes back to what I was saying earlier. I think it's who's that guy Nabal? Do you know who I'm talking about? Nilesh. His name is Nabal something or other. Nabal. I'm pretty sure it was him that said it. Nabal. He's like one of the best investors in the world. He's amazing. Like Nabal. Ravi Kant.
Oh, could be.
Anyway, yeah, no, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I saw him saying it on the Joe Rogan show one time. And I thought, man, this guy is super clever, like super clever.
Yeah.
I believe it was him that said, if your focus is on making money and just money, then funnily enough, you won't make money, because the very thing you need to make money is not to be focused on money. You need to be focused on solving people's problems. In this case, if you're a startup, you need to be hyper focused and hyper aware of what those problems are and what's stopping people from getting their job done, right? Thinking not in terms of avatars, but thinking in terms of what job people are trying to get done. They're not able to get their job done because they're struggling with your application. Like you say, Nilesh and Jason, there's a place for them to be carving out their time. It may not seem like it. It may seem like they need to be getting sales calls done and budgets done and hiring done and all that kind of stuff. But I understand that. But especially when you're a young business, you're a startup, you need to be spending far more time learning than you are doing. And this is a key thing: far more time learning. That learning phase is so critically important. It cannot be stressed enough. If you're just out there just beating it, trying to make money, I'm sorry, you're going to fail, because your focus is not in the right place. It should be in learning. It should be learning, right? So critical to slow down. Something that I learned from Ash Maria too. Slow down at the beginning. Don't speed up. Slow down. If you're speeding up too quickly, doing the wrong thing probably. You need to be slowing down and observing, getting data, getting the pertinent data to be able to make evidence-based decisions about where your startup is going. Learning. You should be putting your resources into learning. I don't mean getting books and doing courses. That's the wrong kind of learning. But it's speaking to your customers and getting evidence-based feedback to be able to make decisions.
I think you said it earlier when you used the word awareness. And if I think about the space that my business is in, politely, I see nothing from any competitors other than a lack of awareness. They will just drop their product, that they don't listen to the customers, they don't talk to the target audience, they don't have empathy to the challenges, the pain points, all the things you discussed earlier. And honestly, I can't believe how bad it is at times. And so I spent the first 12 months when I first moved to Canada, 2019, my first 12 months was just purely canvassing the landscape. What are your problems? Where are your challenges? And now my product is about less friction, saving time, saving money, increasing output. And I still spend more time, and this isn't about me, the superstar. I'm learning all this. And so when you say what you say, Win, it's like, I need to do more of this.
Mm,
But it's amazing how easy these companies just think by putting a Facebook ad out, they're gonna make their millions. And
yeah.
actually, I think they're missing the trick, because they're not doing all the things you just said about. It's certainly in my space. It's I don't want to say too much, because I don't want anyone else to jump in and take my opportunity. But um,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I see it not happening in my market, and companies are disappearing very quickly.
Yeah, and this is a time where we're called to be more adaptive than ever. Businesses are shutting down there, but we have supply chain issues worldwide now. Making a profit in this climate is extremely challenging. It's so much uncertainty. We have to be, as entrepreneurs, we're called to be adaptive, right? Adaptive. That's the key word. Hyper adaptive. You know. We're like weeds that refuse to die.
So lots of good comments here, guys. I'm having a hard time keeping up with. But I also want to give a shout out to some of our new admins. So we have added Samantha Veera. She's in the comments right now. So she's our new admin. We have Pamela Lai. We have added as the new admin. We have Laurel Papworth. We have added as new admin, and we have added Ruhani as a new admin, and Ruturaj as well. So yes, so shout out to all these guys. So, yeah, and we're gonna continue adding more. So Jason, if you're looking for some extra work, please, if you can help us in any way.
I'm a great listener.
Yes. Okay. No, but if, I mean, we want to invite you into as part of the admin team. So if you have the time, I mean, yeah, let us know. We'll chat offline and see. Okay, so no, thank you, thanks a lot, guys. So some lot of lovely comments and posts from some of these folks out there, and awesome. So yeah, so like I'm not sure. What do you think of the concept of open startups? Right, like okay, you have open startups, so like can you have open startups which have run lifetime deals kind of thing, where the founders actually put everything and share everything online, right? Like they build it online, and they build it in, of course, some founders would be like, oh, now our roadmap is private, we don't want competition. But really, I mean, is that does that even make sense in today's age? And yes, sure, if you're the market leader, I understand, right? I mean, there is a lot of features which you want to add, which are very unique in nature. But if you're just starting, maybe your roadmap and everything should be public, and maybe you can share those details to what you are adding, right? So I'm just thinking, should we have should we push for things like open startups where founders come and share their progress, and it's not like, yes, you just go away after your deal is done and we hear back from you after 18 months that you have failed. We don't want that anymore, right? We want to hear more often, right? So do we get a commitment from some of these founders? What is the state of where are you after 3 months or 6 months? Should we invite them back again? And what do you think, Jason?
I think we need to discuss two angles: our angle looking at them, and their angle looking at us.
Yes.
Because I think there's probably two perspectives.
Yes. Very
Because
good.
I would love that openness. I would, and if someone's willing, and I get the competitive aspect, but if someone's willing to document their journey and their progress and their challenges, then I'm going to feel a lot more connected to their transparency. So, as a potential customer and someone that wants to support that long term relationship with a product that, I'm in a very online course place, so let's say it's an online course provider platform. If they're doing that and I like and can see what they're trying to do, I'm willing to go on. I think Wynn's mentioned it before. Um, Progress isn't linear. It doesn't go in a straight. It's an up and down journey. So I would be willing to go on that journey if it's the right product and I like what's being said from the founders. But then, and Wynn, maybe I'll throw it over to you to maybe just flip the perspective. What would the benefits, what would the pros and cons be for a founder to come out and to start publicizing their kind of journey?
It's amazing. There's so many benefits for a founder to do this. I know it's tedious and I know it's vulnerable, but I'm very much of the opinion that if you can survive in vulnerability, then you become more powerful. Vulnerability is a huge tool for developing power in your life.
Yeah.
If you're an alcoholic or if you're addicted to drugs or something, normally I only know this because a really great book. Here's a great book to read. It's called The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown. Amazing book. But it says a lot about, when it comes to learning, often what we do, and I don't know where this comes from, but I guess it's because we come from male-dominated societies. We've been dominated by the masculine. I'm a male, so I don't have any problem saying this, and I'm very masculine, and I'm very, I'm very much into my martial arts and sparring and getting it down and dirty. And I like scrapping, by the way. But there's there's the vulnerability side that we don't like to tap into. It's an energy that we don't like because it makes us feel less powerful. But nothing can be further from the truth. When you expose yourself, and I don't mean in an inappropriate way. I mean if you expose yourself, you make yourself vulnerable to other people. And you're not being fake. Don't get me wrong when I'm saying this. You're not just being a crybaby wussy. That's not what this is about.
No.
It's about letting down your guard and being honest with the intention of loving the people around you. Right. So when you do that, something really amazing happens. First of all, it's very healing for you, but it creates a much deeper connection with the people around you. And if you kind of translate this to a business context, you go, well, businesses are really just an extension of ourselves, right? They take on a life of their own, they have an entity of their own, but you can think of them, you can think of a business as its own type of consciousness. And so, you imagine a founder or the team who are founding their business, who are being very taking this vulnerability approach, being engaged with their customers and letting them know when things aren't going their way, and asking for feedback and talking with them and doing it in a semi-public way. I think that'd be extremely powerful. Number one, to create that connection that I talked about. Number two, it can be healing for the business itself. Number three, it can give you some super pertinent feedback, super timely feedback that you can, like those feedback loops. You can use those to propel our learning, right? And you can shorten the loops on your learning, right? You can shorten the loops on your learning. One of the things that I had a real problem with when I was a youngster was admitting when I didn't know something. I've always been that guy that knew everything, and I consider myself to be moderately intelligent, and I've always learned things really, really quickly. So it's always been a challenge for me to express that I didn't know something. And I guess that comes down to, once again, this instinct to always be the dominant one, to always be the to always be the one that has answers. But I think we've got to quell that as much as possible, because what that does is that slows down our learning. It slows down our learning. And whatever slows down our learning, whatever slows down our adaptation is the enemy, right? Anything that slows down our adaptation is the enemy, and we should expel it out of our thing. So even at the risk of cutting into your ego, putting your ego to death, so to speak, is a good thing to do, because it means that you can now learn. Whenever you are able to temporarily put the ego to sleep or put the ego to death, it allows us to start learning again. I think this is a hugely important tool. So let's take that, what you just asked. If we were to put that tool up, some kind of tool that allowed these founders to express themselves, to engage in the community, to be vulnerable, to get feedback, to build those closer relationships with people, and to speed up that learning loop, I think would be enormously powerful. And I think it's a paradigm that's really, really needed right now, because, we have all of these, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I think people are just really desperate for authenticity in general, in their lives, in their relationships, in their businesses. They just want authenticity. They're sick of the bullshit, sick of the media lying to them, sick of their governments lying to them, sick of it. It's time for a different paradigm, and I think we can kind of be part of that.
Were
When
you
I agree,
talking about? Oh, yeah, go on, Jason.
It was just really to say that I agree, and for anybody else that's curious about that vulnerability piece, I learned it from Brene Brown in her other book, Daring Greatly.
Oh,
So
you've read Brene as
one,
well. That's fantastic.
she's brilliant. Yeah, she's brilliant. Um, I've still got the Gifts of Imperfection to read from her that I've not read yet. So, but yeah, the once you can embrace your vulnerability, I think you see things a very different way. And so flipping out onto the business owner standpoint from the other side, completely agree. Win. I think that would be a hugely beneficial process. Sorry, Nilesh.
Mm.
No, no. When just was talking about ego, I think
She went right out the gate with that diatribe. I was like, took it right off the farm, out the gate, down the road.
Nah, love it,
Sorry,
love
Neil.
it.
Sorry, Neil. You go.
no. Win was talking something about ego, and I mean, so one of the things, which why we wanted to do things as a community was this whole thing where it's like the whole egocentric bias kind of thing, where like we think that okay, we're like okay, we're seeing things with we're very highly intelligent, and we're seeing things
Yeah.
like from perfect objectivity. We we're seeing okay, yes, this is it, this product is doing this, but the reality is might actually be completely different, and that's why we
Mm.
want to have more participation in to make a more educated decision in deciding what is a good product and what we should do as a community and what we shouldn't be doing. So am I making sense or
Yeah.
not?
No, you are.
I think so.
Oh,
I
okay.
think
I,
I think
I,
it's
I would I would just underpin it as well. I think it might have been Alston that said it, but there's still some really really simple principles that I think certainly me personally that I'm going to stand by, and I think if you buy the LTD and you don't test it and you don't use it early on, then there's probably no need for it. So there's some real quick wins here in terms of the common sense things, and you said it earlier, Nilesh. You said something that made a few people in the group a bit jittery. You said no FOMO. So we
yeah.
know that that's a challenge. We see a product come in and it's like, oh wow, And I refunded a couple this week. I brought them early on because I saw the whole group buzzing off of them, and I'm like, right, I can't miss out. I didn't even use them. So then I had a quick
Mm.
chat with myself and said, Jay, what are you doing? Yeah, do you want to try and sell this in a year's time because it's shelfware that's not getting used? We see that post in the community a lot. So I think it was Alston that said it, and I think there are some real quick common sense things in this as well that I love the deep dive and digging deep into the questions, and I love kind of pressing on the wound to try and find out what's good,
Mm.
what's bad, and all the bits and pieces. But equally, there's still some quick things like individually, is it just FOMO? Is there a need for it for you as an individual or your business? And if there isn't, give it back to Appsumo.
Yeah, and I'll even say with the products, right? Let's talk a little bit about that, because like if a product's not that useful, yeah, you're probably not the only one that thinks that, right? I'll give you an example. I've bought so many project management tools off Appsumo, Plutio, Blue, Smart Task, Aura. I lost count. I bought lots of them, hoping that one of those lifetime deals would answer my problem, but none of them really did. And the reason why is because someone else already has answered those problems better. And those businesses are charging an MRR, right? And sometimes you're just going to have to bite the bullet and buy the subscription instead of the lifetime deal. You know what I mean? We've had some extremely lucky shots, you know, with Mailshake and Lemlist and Paperform. You know, these are just some of the, you know, more rare ones that people tend to love. But typically, let's face it, most of the LTDs that are coming through are not solving the problems more adequately even than a lot of the MRR tools. And then the reason why you pay decent money for those is because they've already done the process that I'm talking about. They've already been doing a lot of
They
research.
solve the problem.
They've solved the problem. And they're continually what they're doing is they're continually talking to the customers and removing those barriers. That's why those products are so phenomenally good. That's why they are, because they didn't get there like by luck, you know. Yeah, ClickUp. Yeah, Alston's saying ClickUp. Honestly, Alston, you're talking my language. ClickUp is phenomenally good. If you guys are looking for a project management tool, far out. It's just so good. Unbelievably good. Yeah. But, you know, it's that kind of thinking. You know, if you're not, here's the thing. Like, and we've got founders that are listening to this. I have founders talking to me all the time, and English too. If you're not taking, like, okay, so let's take the example of the Sony Walkman phone. I had the Sony Walkman phone, you know, the first Walkman phone you could get, and you could listen to music, and it looked like an iPhone, but it wasn't a touchscreen. That was actually the predecessor to the iPhone 1, believe it or not. So founders have to learn how Apple took the Sony Walkman and turned it into something one step better. They didn't invent that category. They simply took a category that existed and they removed a barrier. That's how you got to think. If you're taking the iPhone and you're going back the other way to the Walkman, I'm afraid, sorry, you're going to die. And we should be thinking like that too. As a community, we should not be buying products that are going one step backwards from the iPhone. We should be going the other way. We should be going to the iPhone 2, or we should be going to the Samsung Galaxy S2, which was the evolved form of the iPhone 1. We should be thinking like that, not only as investors, not only as founders, but also as people that are buying these things. If we're buying something simply because it's cheap and it's a lifetime deal, I'm afraid that products days are numbered. It's not going to be able to get MRR, at least not to a sustainable degree. It's not going to be able to compete with those products, right? And that's why you have the 80-20 rule. 80-20 rule dictates that energy always gets sucked towards the thing that's more successful and gets sucked out of the things that are less successful. That's just how it is. It's this non-linear distribution in the universe. It's immutable. It happens everywhere.
Yes. I would also like to touch a little bit about all the discussion and some of the new folks who are in the community, right? So when you're new, you look at all these discussions going on, and then you think, wow, this sounds like a really great product and I should buy it. Or, you might want to do some due diligence around, like, because it creates like an increased awareness, right? Suddenly. And it creates an awareness about a product, and then you suddenly start like seeing like, oh, I need it, and then you end up buying it, and you actually don't need that product, and by the time you get to that buying stage, the product has passed like a year or 2 years. And Jason, probably you're lucky because you're probably able to sell some of those products back, but a lot of times you'll get stuck with it, right? So you create that awareness in your mind that, oh, do I need this product? And then you suddenly think you need it, but you actually don't, right? And if you really need it, like we have a community, you can go, and there is nothing in this world like that you cannot get. I mean, it is always going to come back. Or, if you wait for 3 more months, probably it will land on Appsumo again, or something is going to happen, right? So I would say, like, if you're new, don't hurry and just go on buying things and spend, because it could be a complete waste of money, right? So absolutely, there is a lot of things which you can do with really free products too. Our goal is not to, like, our goal as a community is to make sure that everybody prospers in their business and they do well using some of these tools. Our goal is not to buy more tools as a community. It's absolutely not, right? So that's a goal for, yes, Appsumo, but that's not our goal. Like, our goal is, out of 2,000 products, can we choose the right 12 in a year and make sure that they survive and they do well? That's probably a good goal to have, right? But our goal is not to buy more and more. Absolutely not. I mean, I just hate when there is a, like, a lot of newer users who think that, oh, should I need this? Should I need that? Right? Probably not. Yeah.
I would assume that everyone that steps into this community goes through that process. It's phase one of being in this community. Is you hear a good comment on something, and so I better buy it. I better, who's selling it because I need it. And luckily, I've managed to sell all mine now. But maybe there needs to be an onboarding process for new members. Don't get caught up in the shiny things. And
That's
don't pay $2,000 for air meat either.
that's for sure. That's for sure. You didn't pay for $2,000 for air meat, did you?
No. I saw it quoted $2,000 in the last week or so, and
Oh my god!
yeah,
Like, that's crazy.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I was like, wow, do not pay $2,000 for anything. And first of all, if you're like, if you're paying more than $200, $300 for everything, you want to check if that person is trusted. They're part of the community. You want to make sure that they're using PayPal. You do not want to pay anything for anything $2,000 for sure, right? Like, now, Air Meat is an exception. They're doing incredibly well, but other than that, we will see a lot of these products, like even swipe pages. Like, some people are like $800 and they are running their LTD. I talked to them, okay? I talked to them, and they could budge a little bit on their LTD, right? It was like, okay, if we can give 100 product commitment and everybody gets to pay them directly, they will give us a discount. But the reason is, like, okay, they're playing a little bit hard. I just think that, I looked at their traffic, and really the only way people are reaching swipe pages right now is if they're looking for a product called Swipe Page, and that's giving probably the most of the organic traffic. But when people are looking for any type of landing page builder, Swipe Page is nowhere in the picture. Why? Because nobody knows about it. Google does not, like, has like Swipe Pages listed on the third page probably, right? Often do we go actually on the third page of a search and look for your result? You almost never do, right? Like, maybe some people do. I don't personally. So Swipe Pages is nowhere in the picture. I'm not sure how they're generating MRR. Maybe they have another company called I don't know, but they have a company which they have a theme, WordPress theme, and I think they sell on Theme Forest. And I had bought a theme from their company like a long time back, and they're doing okay on that theme, but it had some bugs too. So anyway, I would say, like, just don't get caught up into all the hype and that increased awareness of something where you suddenly think that you need it. Absolutely not.
I agree. Well, I got to shoot anyway in a minute or two. So,
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I think the next steps for us is, I think we need to collect some more feedback. If we are going to have some sort of a pledge or an agreement or something of that sort from founders, what all should be included, right? Like, we have some of our points, but we would like to collect a little bit more feedback, share it with the community, right? What are some of the
yeah,
next immediate steps we need to take around things like Botstar, Automizy? Who are the people responsible? How do we reach them, right? We need to do that for sure, because there is a lot of people's expectations and hard-earned money at stake. in so we need to address some of those immediate. So for the takeaways for us is like, okay, how do we address some of the immediate problems, and how do we work on that problem resolution? But how do we in future also ensure that this repeat occurrence is stopped, and we ensure some of the better longevity of the product, as well as making sure that our interest as a community is protected.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe one thing that we can do for everyone who's here in the community is start to maybe just add to this post over the next day or two things that you think are important, and then maybe what we could do then after that, Neelish, is do a bit of a poll to see what the most important ones are, because there's probably out of the 30 things that we could be collecting information about, probably 5 of those are a good predictor of the longevity of a startup.
Traction metrics.
Yeah.
I got it scribbled down about 7 times, Win. You said it that many times.
That's a huge one. I'm always stopping and asking myself about what my traction metric is. And you guys heard me talking about my co-founder and I have a data and analytics business. We don't, it's funny. Just as a bit of an anecdote, we have probably 3 different business models in there that we could be doing right now, and we have been going slow. We are making significant MRR now. We're not rich, but we're making significant MRR. And we're dealing with businesses that are making anywhere from, spending $5,000 a month to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, right? Anywhere from just getting started to multi-million dollar businesses. And we are in that learning phase. We're in that learning phase. We're a 1-year-old startup that's trying to figure out which model makes the most sense and how we're going to scale this thing. And if you go through scaling lean, there's 3 or 4 main growth phases. And what the beginning 2 phases are moderately flat, but then as you break out past some of those early phases, you start going geometric, and it's so critical that you are, number 1, identifying what your traction metric is, and number 2, that you're mostly focused on learning and not allowing yourself to grow too quickly in the beginning, because you end up heading down a dead end street because you're not investing in the learning, right? And always, even if it's not a business, I'm always asking myself, what's my traction metric? I really put that out in front of myself, especially when I find myself really busy. I make myself unbusy on purpose, because it's when you're busy, it's really a dangerous place to be, because you're not thinking very well. You're not thinking very clearly. Yeah. I agree.
Yes, so just want to give a shout out to some of the people probably who joined late or commented late, maybe. Felipe is here as well. Hey, Pamela is here. Pamela is saying, we about cured my hype following fever. Okay.
That did get crazy there for a while, that V-bout craziness.
Yeah, and right? that I blame on Jenny a little bit.
Jenny.
Sure.
Jenny.
Yeah.
Jenny is the V-bout mascot for sure. So
I mean, you have to say it does a ton of things. I don't know how well it does them, but it does a ton of things,
Oh yeah.
I'm a simplicity man. My philosophy is simple. I like my tools to be extremely good and extremely narrow in their focus. That's me. I'm a big believer in that. And then I like to make sure that they all have APIs so data can go from one to the other. That's my philosophy. I don't believe that there's a master tool out there that can do everything well. That's just my natural skepticism.
I agree.
Yes, I think with that, thank you folks for all the lovely comments. I think we're going to next I think we just discussed what's our plan of action, what are some of the next steps we're going to do in the community, and then we move towards that common goal, right, where we invest in good apps and they pay off in terms of how we use them in our business. So our main goal as a community is how we focus on our own business, right? Our goal is not to sell more apps or anything of that sort, but to help founders to be more productive with what we are doing. And tools is more of like means to get things done in our day-to-day lives. That's not the end kind of thing, right? I mean, so we keep that in mind. uh, yes, so when thank you so much for all
Thank you,
the
Neelish.
wisdom, Jason. Thoughtful
Thanks,
as always.
thanks, Jason.
Thank you for
Thanks, Neelish.
joining. Thank you to all
Thanks,
the
Win.
lovely
Thanks,
people:
Nilesh.
Ruhani, Alston, Alberto, Pamela, Felipe. We've got quite a few folks. Sajwal was here, and Samantha was here as well. Who am I missing? Zav was here. Zav, how are you? I haven't seen him. I hope he's still online, but maybe not. That's okay. Guillermo was here. So thank you, everyone. Thanks. If I missed anybody, I apologize. But you can always reach out to us, and we'll connect again. Thank you, everyone. So have a wonderful night or a great day, depending on where you are, and we'll see you soon again. So thank you.
See you guys later.
All right.